Peggy 12. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the studio this evening. And what I'm going to be doing this evening is hopefully just finishing this bracelet off before we move on to doing pyrography. So we've got that far. Forgotten how far it is, so we'll just have a quick measure. That's at about almost 4.5, oh well, 4.25 inches. He wants to go to about 7, so we're about halfway there on this, and I kind of need to do another band, and then when that band is done, join the two together. So we shall just need some more rings opening. 3V/7, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. So I'm just going to be opening and closing rings again for a little while. And then be able to get on with some weaving. And we will see how this, trying out the HTML player to see my own stream back, and we'll see how that performs. Fluffy Twiglet, good evening, welcome to the stream this evening. Since I've already noticed the HTML player restart itself about 4 times already, it's going to be interesting to see if it actually stays up and running for the whole stream. Okay, I'll just open a few of these. I have literally no idea how many I need, as usual. So, how is everybody this evening? Fluffy Twiglet says, hello Mrs. Aragonot, who says hi. Thank you. Right. So I need to close some of these blue rings. I've got some of the gold ones there. Okay, so we'll just leave them from yesterday. Hopefully I can get this finished today. Actually hoping I have enough rings as well. I thought I got more than I had, although I do seem to have lost a box which may or may not contain rings, because I was certain I had more of certainly these blue than I thought I have. I don't think it would be possible to lose a whole box full of rings, but or a whole box with it contains rings, and I don't know. You did indeed, Fluffy Twiglet. You did indeed. And we might even get Felix visiting tonight. He's been wandering around the studio for the past, well, most of the day actually. He's actually wanting to sit on my chair, so if I get up he will probably almost immediately jump in it. But he is currently curled up underneath the desk, and I can't show you because the camera lead won't reach that far. And it's dark under there as well, so you know, looking for a black cat in a dark place, you wouldn't see much. least another stripe of this blue, so I'm going to carry on with these rings in front of me. I am getting a lot better at knowing just how much force to use, which is good because it means I can close them quite quickly. Can't necessarily unhook them from one another that quickly, but oh dear. Yes, putting your sleep cycle back in synchronization can be quite difficult. That is usually the as I understand it, the recommended method is to skip until you would normally go back to sleep and then start. But staying up for upwards of over 24 hours can be challenging. Having something to keep you interested and awake will help a lot. Oh yeah, no, it'll be anything up to about 26-30 hours, won't it? But staying up 24, even 24 hours is or can be quite a challenge. And trying not to sort of end up catnapping in the middle of it. "35 hours. That's a fair amount of time. I wish you luck with that. I do. It's not something I think I'd be able to do these days. Actually, I don't think it's something I've particularly ever been able to do. Back when I was younger, I did stay up for a couple of event type things. That was almost 24 hours, but that was really hard work. Well, hard work as in it was hard to stay awake at the end of it. And I don't think it was quite 24 hours then either. I think in the end I had a short sleep at about 5 o'clock in the morning for 2 or 3 hours. Right, so we've got some rings there. We're working on blue. Let's see if I can get hold of this. So a bit of fluff. Okay, let's see if I can remember how I was doing this yesterday. I think I was doing it like this. Catch those two. Catch up those two. Yes, that's it. And then catch those two through there. And that's off frame, so let's pick up the camera. Luckily you don't have to do a lot, so you won't get tired quickly. I don't know. You may be different. I know if I don't have something to do, I get really tired quickly. the more I have to do, the less tired I am. For me, if I get bored, if you like, the easiest way of describing it, if I get bored, I get sleepy, and then I start falling asleep. And now then, have we reached? Yeah, we just about reached the point of switching to gold, I think. So we'll take a blue ring on this side and a gold ring on that side. And yep, I switched to gold ring here. Now then, do I put a gold ring on? No, I don't switch to a gold ring there, I switch to a blue ring. Gotta get this right. So this one goes through there, will be blue. And I'm becoming... I'm trying to work out what I'm doing. You're going on... You're going in the caffeine route to try and keep awake. Yeah. Well, I actually find coffee helps me go to sleep, so that wouldn't work for me at all. Gold and blue, and to pick up 2 gold. Right, it is gold then. Okay. And I don't get that. Everybody, lots of people who have sort of coffee sort of say, you know, they get a buzz out of the coffee. It, you know, gives them, wakes them up, makes them sort of, well, sort of jazzed up, if you like. I don't find that at all with coffee. It doesn't affect me in that way. As I say, it's just as likely to put me to sleep. Now then, just before I continue, I noticed a couple of these rings just want a bit of a tweak here, so I'm just going to do that one. Where was the other one? No idea. Oh well, if I see it, I'll do it. Right, we're back on the gold. And you, Fear Reaper, I thought students had the reputation of being up well all hours in the morning anyway, you know, at university and things, going to parties and stuff like that. And I thought you might have wanted to retain that being used to being up at that time in the morning. And I'm also afraid to say is I won't be keeping you company, and we will be stopping the streaming around about the normal sort of time, so you may need to go hunt through through creative to keep for someone else to help you stay wide awake. And in a minute I'm going to need to close some of these gold rings. Yeah, of course you did say that, and I completely slipped my memory, despite the fact it's on screen in front of me. Oh well, programming that will certainly keep you awake and interested with programming, especially if you end up with an interesting problem to solve. You know, I used to find that if there was something that wasn't quite as I wanted it, it was really hard to actually go to sleep, because you kept wanting to just fix that little thing that was annoying you, or you just spent 3 or 4 hours trying to understand and work out the fix for, and it was trying to get to sleep when you'd just done that was always a problem. Now then, I need some more rings. Closing. So I shall just tweak a few. Well, I tell you what, if you can program successfully when you are like that, you won't have a problem doing it when you're wide awake. Bless you. Pussycat just sneezed. In case you were wondering. Actually, the pussycats, I don't know if it's the weather or something. I said, Felix is acting, I mentioned he's acting a little odd. He's been up here in the studio all day, wanting to sort of be around, and he's most of the day at work today. He's actually been sat on my desk, or laid on the desk, curled up asleep. But the female cat, Cleo, who never comes upstairs. She's in fact she almost totally ignores me altogether. She's actually spent most of this day laid on my knee whilst I've been at work. So it's somewhat of an unusual day. I'm not sure if she's got used to the fact that Mrs. Aragonat's been up here, for the past few nights, and therefore she's just following the scent, and I happen to be sat in the same chair. Or maybe it's just the weather. Hoburg87, hello, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. So I hear you're going to try out Dragon Scale tomorrow with a bit of luck. Hopefully you'll enjoy doing it. It's I have fun doing it, apart from the first 3 rows. I found it easier to keep the first two rows on the desk whilst you did them, if you like, and then lay them back down on the desk. As soon as you've closed to bring in the 3rd row, put it back down on the desk, just to help sort it out. But once you got the 3rd row in, then it was okay. You could hold it in your hand and just work from there. Yep. Oh, if you want to see somebody mess it up, you can always watch one of my VODs, because I was doing I can't actually remember when I was doing it. It was in about the last week. You've seen, you saw that, didn't you, Holberg? Which is, of course, dragon scale. So there is a long form video, 2-hour video of me doing at least the first part of that and messing it up, I think, a couple of times before I got it right. So hopefully if you wanted to, you'd be able to look at that and see how not to do it to start with. Let's open a couple of these and then I'll go back to weaving this one. Yeah. Actually, was it male artists? I worked out how to do it from a website that has that sort of thing on it. One thing that I with dragon scale is there's 2 ways of doing it, so you might want to watch out for that if you're not aware. There's kind of a way where you work with the small internal rings closed and a way where you work with the larger outer rings closed. So you may come across 2 different methods for doing it, which obviously I say they're working obviously different ways, so that might be just something you need to be aware of. I don't know which is easiest. I've only tried it the one way with the small internal rings being pre-closed. That sort of struck me as it likely to be the easiest, but I actually haven't tried either way. Sorry, both ways. That's something for the future. And so, Fear Reaper, you're gonna practice being a zombie. It sounds like, if you think you're going to be playing dead. The Night of the Undead. Fear Reaper walks again. Right, and back to weaving. That end. Move the camera up a little bit, might help. A little bit awkward to zoom in, and then remember to keep trying to be in frame. It's not so much that particular bit, it's when I start and pick up, switch to the pliers to close something, then remembering to just position my arm in roughly the same position again so you can see. This is kind of one where you might be best sort of looking over my shoulder, because then you get the same view that I do, which is looking sort of at that end of it, like that, because I then have to sort of get in amongst it that way. So what I could almost do with, and it's something like the Google Glasses type of thing to get the same view that I do. At least that way then I wouldn't have any problems with positioning the video camera. actually, having said which, I know you can actually get small video cameras that will clip to the side of a glasses frame. They're meant for people doing things like active sports, like running or cycling, motorcycling, that sort of thing. And they sit just at the side and point forward. That might be an interesting one to that would be an interesting one for all sorts of reasons. One is getting to point, because I'm looking forward, but my eyes look down, so the camera would be not looking at where I'm going necessarily. And then there's the privacy aspect of it. Mrs. Aragonat, of course, doesn't like to or doesn't want to be on video, which is fair enough. But it would mean, for example, I couldn't turn my head and have a look at her when she's over there. Get this a little bit longer, don't know how much longer, before we switch back to the blue again. Certainly seems to build relatively fast. I mean, I hadn't gone on the wasn't using the gold when we started the stream, and I know it's what, 40 minutes ago now, but it doesn't seem to have been that long. Let's make this a bit longer in the gold. Time passes relatively quickly. That ring isn't closed properly. So I've been having yet more fun today to do with the website. Those of you that I've put a ring through there and I have made a mistake, so let me take that ring out. You've probably heard by now that I'm trying to put a website together, and one of the things I want to do on that website is to try and sell some of this, or put up for sale, not try and sell, put up for sale some of the art and things like the jewellery, for example. And because of that, there's all sorts of regulations that I've had to go into and looking at. It's not just a simple matter of saying, hey, this is for sale, do you want to buy it? There's things like the hallmarking, as I mentioned on the last stream, I think it was, and then there's things like in the UK, the Information Commissioner's Office registrations, because you're a data processor, because you're holding sensitive information, which is people's names and addresses, for the orders. Then there's the other legal requirements that come with being in business, and then there's PCI compliance to do with the fact that you're taking credit cards, even if those credit cards are handled by a third party, which they will be. Dear, I've spent about 3 weeks so far just reading things like legislations and business guides and things like that. It's amazingly simple but complex, and when you think it, all I want to do is say to effectively people, if you would like to buy one of these, if you like, on the website, this is, it's for sale. You can buy one if you want. You pay me this much, I'll send you it. And yet you have to go through all the legislation and things like that, registrations, and so let's switch back to blue at this point. So I do that with a gold one to start with. I'll do it with a gold one if I can actually get it to go in. There we go, thank you. So I put a gold ring on this side, and then I put a gold ring on this side and a blue ring on this side, because I'm doing this on a slight diagonal, which hopefully will be a little bit more obvious when we add on the second chain down the side. Now then I switch to a blue centre ring on this, I believe. Oh dear. Come on. I put one on that side. And in case you were wondering, talking about websites and stuff and selling stuff like that, even if you do this sort of stuff on Etsy, you have to go through exactly all the same stuff. Because you're still a business and you're still selling things and you're still holding personal data. And you still have to be PCI compliant if you want to take credit cards, even if places like Etsy are doing it for you. I don't know what it's like for those of you that are not in the EU, whether it's easier to do these sorts of things or not, but still, as a reason for learning new things go, it's not a bad one. It's quite interesting in a way. Frustrating but interesting. Yeah, so if you're talking about needing patience to do something, that's one thing you need it for. Not for making the jewellery or the rings or the pyrography or anything like that. It's all the setting up. And then this looks quite long. Let's have a measure and see how long it is. Six and a quarter inch. So we've only got 3/4 of an inch left to go. So we seem to have got there quite quickly. So I might just switch back to, don't know, may leave it at we may finish on the blue, I think, of this bit anyway. So hopefully, well, we'll see if we manage to finish this bracelet tonight. If not, I do want to finish it on stream, and I don't particularly want to leave it for a long period of time till I start and do this again. So we will be finishing it, but then I will move on to pyrography. I think I'll be doing an image in pyrographic terms. That's a big word. Or a pyrographic image. I think what I'm going to do is one of the I'm going to do a monorail car from Disney World, or one of the older monorail cars from Disney World. I've got an airbrush painting of one. It's one of my first airbrush paintings, and I quite like the shape of those trains. They look quite nice. I think I might try and see if I can do one in pyrography. You think LMC 1337, you think pricing your pieces is the hard part? It is and it isn't. It depends on the method that you use to do it. Whether you're just thinking up prices or not. I kind of, well, a large part of pricing is I find easy because it's really a case of material cost. So yeah, how much, if you talk about these rings for example, how much do the rings that you've used cost to buy? How much does it cost? So and that includes the cost of having them delivered. There's then the cost of the time it takes to physically make the thing, so your own time, and you put a rate in that, whatever it is. Then you've got to think about things like a clasp on the end, what sort of clasp, and the costs involved in in purchasing that and having it delivered. Then you've got to think about the costs of sending it, to get postage and packing for example, or whether that's separate or included. But you certainly need cost of the packing material that you've got to buy and have delivered in order to be able to use it. The time it takes you to wrap wrap it up, whatever. You've then got any ancillary costs, so that's just the cost of one, if you like. And then what you have to do is you start thinking of other costs, like I have a website for example, so that costs some money to rent for the year. So how much of that do you put into the cost of the item that you're selling, because it should have some. And then and that's just adding costs up, if you like, and that gives you basically a minimum. And then what you have to do is work out if you want to make a profit, and if you want to make a profit, how much should that be? Now that's the hard bit, and especially then because it's at that point where you start having to look at what people could buy, your competitors, if you like, what they would sell it at, and are they competitors and things like that, before you then come up with your final price. And if you're still selling for more, then you either have to work out a way to reduce your prices or work out why it's worth paying. We will put on another, so one, that's going to go to there. Actually, we'll put on another set of rings and then we should be finished. The time, that's the difficult bit really. Well, not really if you think about it. It's just I will say a stopwatch, but it's just a clock. I mean, this piece for example, we spent an hour last night doing it. We've already spent an hour now, so that's 2 hours, and it's likely to take 4 hours to complete. 4 hours. So the hard bit is if you can make one and measure it, that's easy for time wise. It's when you have to estimate the time. Now that's when it gets difficult. If you to estimate the time and you've got no reference for it. I mean, doing this for example takes longer than doing a Byzantine bracelet. Because a Byzantine bracelet, I know I can do one of those in about an hour to an hour and a half. I'm not that fast, but let's say an hour and a half. So this has more rings, so you may be able to, in this particular case, go, well, how many rings has this got, how long did that take, how many rings has the Byzantine got, how long did that take, and then do an averaging, so many rings per hour that you can put together, and that allows you to do the estimating, so you can then estimate stuff that you haven't done before. But yeah, no, it can be a challenging thing. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, well, your first thing is it a job, or is let's say doing this going to be your job, or is it you're just looking to recover costs? I would highly suggest that everybody prices things based on looking at it as though it was going to be a job, because the problem with people that do things as a hobby and then just start to sell things just to recover the costs of buying more rings, for example. And I can understand why they do it, because these, whatever hobby it is you do, the materials cost a fair amount of money. We're at 7 inches, so that bit's finished. But then, if you get a professional that sells, I don't know, something large like this, and you get somebody who's just this piece has taken about, I think it was about 4 hours to do that. So there's about 8 hours to finish a bracelet of that size. If you get somebody that just wants to recover the price of the rings used, for example, I will make this up because I don't actually know. They might charge £10 for something like that. But then, I've got 8 hours of time in it. So if I was wanting to do this as a job, I wouldn't be selling that for £10. And I suspect the rings cost more than that, but that's just as an example. But then I have, effectively I'm competing against that person that's selling it for £10. So how on earth do I do that? And ultimately I can't. It's impossible to do. But it would be nice if those people sort of said, you know what, we don't want to harm other people as well. Let's not, you're not going to collude on prices because that's illegal. But they're going to go, let's charge a commercial rate, even though I want to recover my piece, my just the cost of my rings. Let's at least go somewhere to being commercial. But anyway, that's an old argument, and there's not you can do about it. But if you're looking at it from the point of view, it's your job. How about what's the minimum wage in your country? There's a good starting point. Jammy? No. Now then, so we've done that. Now we do it again, basically. But this time we've done that. Okay, we'll do it again because that's 7 inches long, which makes it 7.5 if I had the clasp. What I'm going to do is do another one of these, but bearing so that effectively I will, if you like, lay it alongside like that. I know I've just put the rings there, but it will lay alongside this, and then I'll join them together. So what I'm going to do is do that, but when I've got to bear in mind whilst I'm doing this, and I wish I had my cocktails, there we go, is I've got a diagonal looking, the idea is to do these bands on a diagonal. So when I do this section, I've got to sort of work out the gold bit actually has to be longer on this next chain, so that when it gets attached to the side of here, I maintain that angle there. Now that's going to be an interesting challenge to get in place, but I think we'll manage it okay. So it's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So at least 18 before we start having to think about that. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16. Okay, we're a bit short, but I'll do those 16 before we go any further. Thank you very much, LMC. Yeah, they have turned out. It was Fear Reaper, I think, that suggested these colours, confirmed by my expert colourist at the other end of the room here. It is chainmail, yes. Yeah, no, I can understand that, LMC, but that's a starting point. But if you want it to do it as a job, then that is exactly what you would have to charge. If you wanted to do that as a full-time job, for example, that is literally what you'd want to charge. If you don't, then okay, you start to say, well, I don't, but I still would like to, make a contribution or something like that, because your time is worth something. Even if you enjoy doing what you're doing, there are lots of people that like going to work. It doesn't mean they don't want to get paid for it. So, and ultimately, what is something worth? It's really worth. See, your papercraft, for example, is worth whatever somebody's prepared to pay for it. Ultimately, that's the thing. It's not like saying papercraft is worth a fiver because gold is worth 50 quid. It's literally whatever somebody's prepared to pay. And if you've got just that one item that is beautifully made or whatever, you might find somebody's quite happily prepared to pay £1,000 for it, for example. I'm just making figures up, I've no idea. So you don't necessarily sort of sell yourself short just on that basis, because it's whatever the market will support, really. Do I have anything in mauve or turquoise? Well, turquoise is a not fully turquoise. No, I don't. Double entendre. This, you could describe the colour that I'm using here as a turquoise. It's a sort of a light sky blue. Let me just do this. But I don't often do single colour pieces, so I'll just pull that down. So mauve or let's have a look. No, that's blue. I mean, again, we've got pieces like this which have got that light blue or sort of a turquoise sort of colour into it. I do actually have a. It's not in. Okay. Mauve, lilac, light purple. Bit of a difficult colour. This one is a really light mauve, very light colour. I mean, it looks almost silver, but it's got a slight purple on it. And yet, that's an unusual one. Actually, that's just a batch variation. I mean, the rings. Unfortunately, that's what I would call a mauve, perhaps, but it's showing up as blue. This camber and or lighting both together cause a problem where that's a purple and that's a purple. So this is a darker, richer purple, and this is a lighter one, a lilac or potentially mauve. But the camera represents both of them as a blue, and even a stills camera is. I've tried doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to have to try and take some pictures outside in natural daylight just to see if they come out different, but I was using daylight anyway, and the camera still has a problem with showing the purple hue of them. Indeed, fine. Indeed. Okay, think of it this way then, LMC. Somebody who wanted that model that you'd just done, but doesn't have time to do it themselves, how much are they prepared to pay? How much do they get paid doing their job? That they don't want to take that time off to spend, you know, that same 40 hours doing that same model. It's what gets called cash rich time poor, and that's where you know. So I'm confused by what I'm trying to do with this set of rings here. It's the other way up I'm going. There we go. Right, I'm back in. Sequence, I am going that way. Yes, I am. And then that one should have had 2 rings on it, and it didn't. So I've got to open this ring. If I can find where the join is. There it is. I forgot to put 2 additional rings on when I put this ring through. Let's just put 2 on. Just put them on this side and I'll sort them out in a minute. It's easy to sort them. It's easy to hold them later on. But just for the minute we'll just hold them like that. There we go. This is kind of like trusting you know what you're doing in this, because I know that what I want to do is, well, this looks a little bit like a ball of rings. I know I want those 2, and I want 2 from over this side, and whilst the rest is somewhat of a ball of ring in my fingers, it will sort itself out shortly. And some of the other weaves, like the half Persians, if you can do it such that you sort of trust you know what you're doing, like this, then you can get away without having to sort of hold it on the desk or use clips and things like that to hold things in place. Please don't be like that, double entendre, otherwise you will be no longer here. Everybody is quite welcome to have a chat in chat and talk about things that I am happy for them to talk about, whether it's you or LMC or anybody else. Yeah, indeed LMC, popularity. I mean, if you think about the model makers that work for sort of the films and television, what's the difference really, you know? Double entendre, if you're interested in something, please send me a PM on Twitch describing what it is that you're interested in, and then I can let you know. That's not something I would normally choose to discuss on stream. A life size, yeah, but life size Yoda's only about 6 inches, isn't he? Oh dear, but that would be, you know, that's amazing, you know, to do that sort of thing. I mean, a lot of the Star Wars props, a lot of people really like Star Wars props of any sort of kind, you know. I mean, I know everybody wants a lightsaber, but you know, they can't have everything. But you know, there's lots of R2D2, for example, is always it always seems to be sort of a popular robot for people to do. Yeah, no, I was kind of just jesting with you on Yoda. I know he's sort of half a meter. Actually, half a meter. That's a fun. Oh, you mean your model is okay? I was going to say, judging by the size on the films, is about sort of. Mind you, yeah, I would have thought that, yes. I suppose it's about 2. I'm sort of thinking, when you see him alongside some of the other actors, like the fellow, I've forgotten his name now, plays Luke Skywalker, of course. When you see him a lot in the early films, he's sort of up to his sort of hip. And I suppose I don't know how high that actor is, but sort of somewhere between 5 and 6 feet, I guess. Then, yeah, he's probably about 2.5 feet as Yoda. So, kind of amazing. Not sort of thought about it like that. Okay, these are the. So we've got. I think it was 16 gold rings. So I know I'm at least 2 short of what I want, but so I'll get some more out in a second. Yeah, come on. Okay. What I'm going to do is put this down on the desk next to this one. And we'll just see if I can give you an idea. Oops, there's it. So what we're going to do is sit that one alongside there, like that. So I've got at least another set of rings to go on to make it level. So at least one more set, a second set to level it with this. Then I've got to think, so I've got 2 sets. We then have 3 sets because that gold will pick up on, so we've got 3, this is, I think what well no, I have to do it right. I was going to say what I could do is, if it's a bit long it's not a problem because I can always take them off the end here. But I can't do that with the blue. When I put the blue on, I need to get the blue bit right. And the blue actually is easier to do as long as I get the yellow to this gold colour to the right place. Then I just, for the blue, I just add exactly the same number of rings again because it will be the same number. They're just shifted further up the chain. So it's this starting block that's vital. If I get that right, the rest will be right. If I get that wrong, the rest will be wrong. But that makes it easier. Talk it over with you guys, you see. It's the marbles are starting to click together. As long as I get that about right, and I use exactly the same number of blue rings, because it's a parallelogram, you don't know if you know, but you can shift it over, it will be right. At worst case, all I need to do is add some extra rings or take some away at this end of this small chain when I've finished. And I can line it up before I actually physically join them together. So we'll do it that way. Now then. I think we'll take that one a little bit further. Yes, so did I. LMC. But he took it a little bit further. Right, so blue. And gold. No, I think you're perfectly right with that, LMC. Yeah, they're just it's the school holidays, you know, and they think they're being funny, or they think they're being original, one or the other. Well, I'll do another. I'll just do enough gold, I think, just to do this little block, and then we'll do the blue ones that we need. Because now we've got the completed link set next to it, we can actually count them and get exactly the right number. Yeah, that's right. Yep, sorry, I was just at that point. Nodal chain was just sort of showing what I was doing with the chain, working it out. But yes, thank you for reminding me. I do forget from time to time. This moment in time, though, I am just closing a few gold rings. I'll then count how many blue ones I need, and we'll sort the next section of blue rings out. Yeah, you're right though. They partly do it because they think they're anonymous. They're not. So they think they can get away with it. You know, it's they're the sort of people that wouldn't go into like a shopping centre, if you like, and say that to somebody. They just wouldn't dare. So they think because they think they're anonymous on the internet that they can get away with that. And of course, everybody's traceable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, that makes sense. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and one of those is already open, so I'll just put that over there. So I'll just, as is that, so let's pick another one. So I need 18 for this, so the blue, so I'll just close these 15 I've got here up. Which is enough to do the corresponding block. I hear Nilchen. Good evening. Welcome to the studio. No problem. I don't mind. I do from time to time forget to move the camera, and so somebody remind me. It's not a problem. I don't mind. You're going to have a go at your farmer's market? No, that's a good place to have a go. And yes, as you say, you start with the simple ones, and let people who actually, rather well, it depends obviously if you're interested, in sort of just doing the big models just for the sake of, just because you're interested in doing them. But if you do them as commissions, then people will look at it in a completely different light. Yeah, life-size Yodas. That ring isn't quite closed properly. We'll just do that one again. I certainly wish you luck with it, LMC. And of course, I'd encourage you to stream doing them, creating models, papercraft models. It's something I'd certainly watch if I'm around at the time to watch it. Well, anybody that creates anything, I am fascinated watching, especially physical things. But even things like papercraft, and it's something like a life-size papercraft. Getting something like that to be stand up, and I know it's not paper that you'd use; it's thicker card and things like that. But just sort of the engineering that goes into them to create all the detail and things, I find absolutely fascinating. There again, I do encourage lots of people to stream, because the more there is in creative, then the more people come in and the more people look around and watch streams and things like that. So always fascinating by that. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. That's what I thought. 2 4 6 7 8 9. Now then, I said I think I wanted, so that's okay. We've got 2 4 6 8. No, let's count this the other way. I want to just make sure I get the right number on here. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. We'll make it level with that. I'd want another one on there. No, that makes it level with that. 10 and make it level with that. I want the blue one to go through the next ring, so I think I want 2 3 will be level with that. That'll join in. Yeah, I think that's right. Ah, okay. Yeah. I mean, if the PC's only broadcasting a video and the camera itself is doing the encoding, for example, then I can imagine even sort of fairly old PCs being able to handle some of it anyway. I know the PC is still doing a heck of a lot of the encoding, but if it's not running a game or anything, then it might well be be able to run a camera without a problem. And the other, I've made the assumption that you're using Microsoft Windows of some kind, but of course things like OBS, I think there is a Linux version of OBS. I'm not sure if it's got quite the same facilities, but Linux generally is a little bit less power hungry on PC platforms, so you might be able to use that as well on a slightly older machine. Mind you, I haven't said which. I'm trying to think how old this machine is that I'm running it on, but this one is still a relatively powerful machine. So I'm running an i7 with at least 12 gigs of RAM. I can't remember exactly, and SSDs. So the only thing which is kind of not as powerful these days as they have been in the past is the graphics card, which is somewhat out of date. Now then, this is where I put a blue ring in. And start switching over. So I put a gold one on this side and I put a blue one on this side. And now then. Yep, this next one's a gold one with 2 blue on, and then that ring is wrong, as is that one. Okay, I've got some corrections to make on that chain I've just made. The transition between two of the colours was not quite done right. Luckily this first transition that I did on that chain is so I can use it as the model. So I then go to a blue here to pick up that and those two. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so if I just lay this down on the desk, sort those rings out. So the idea is it will sort of look like that when the two get joined together. As you can see now, there's that angle there between them, so it doesn't go straight across the bracelet, it actually goes across at an angle. If it's 1 megabit available to you, that's not too bad. LMC, you can do something like a 680 for something for something. If you were playing a game, it might, a fast moving game, that might be difficult. But for something like this, you shouldn't have too much problem. I know I'm broadcasting 720 and I'm broadcasting 1.5 megabits but you could quite I mean, there's the amount of movement that's on this screen on the stream when I'm doing a lot of this. There's not a lot changing, so it's padding a lot of that to keep the 1.5 megabits going. So I'm sure you could probably get something in about 800 kilobits. You might get the odd artifact if you sort of did something really fast, but I wouldn't have thought in paper crafting, for example. It doesn't sound like you're going to do something really fast. So yeah, maybe if you're running a scalpel down the side of a ruler or something, but it's a momentary thing while the stream catches up on that. But I think you might manage it. I was watching. Oh, who was it? Loki somebody. So Loki something of that. I've forgotten there was a number on the end of it. This afternoon, he was broadcasting. I think something like 620 or 638, something like that. Which he claimed he was running about 800 kilobits on, and he was doing chainmail just like this. So he was doing, I wasn't noticing anything on there. I was watching on an iPad, but it wasn't transcoding or anything like that. So I was watching the source stream. I was thinking your more likely problem is going to be whoever else is attached to that feed, and they're playing some FPS and they're complaining about you taking constant bandwidth up. Because that's kind of what you do when you broadcast. What OBS tries to do is keep a constant bandwidth going all the time. It doesn't like, it tries its best not to flex it too much because the internet doesn't actually like it. And that's sometimes why you get large buffers on streamers if the internet is if they're fluctuating the stream too much, the thing buffers more. There we go, through those two. Yep, that's good. I have an odd number, which is what I was expecting. I need to tip that up a little bit, don't I? There we go. Yeah, if you can use a hardwired connection rather than Wi-Fi, you'll be better off for streaming. There's generally speaking, there'll be less things like retries and stuff like that, so your stream buffers will be lower, and the latency will be a bit lower as well from that. And that also means that the PC will have a little bit more. I know the Ethernet card is doing most of the work, but you'll have a little bit more processing power, just a small amount available. If you're working on a wired connection. Okay, now then, blue. There, and I want a gold which I haven't closed, so let's just pick one up and do it. There. Blue on the other side. Nope, that's the wrong way around. I want gold on that side and blue on this side. And that's right. Now I want a couple of gold rings closed for this final blue ring. And we'll have finished this blue section. Okay. So use this final blue center ring to pick up those and those. So that just provides a nice coloured transition. Gold on either side. Okay, so right, is that? So I'm just looking at it there, checking it. Well, I'm almost certain I've done it right. So yeah, if when you're lining things up like I'm doing here, you've kind of got to just stretch the chain to its normal length just to check. Is it going to be better like that? Well, that's something I can fix at the end. Either way. So we're into a block of yellow now. Yeah. Yeah. Although LNC it depends whether you do like a fixed quote on a commission or whether you do it on a time and materials basis. But yeah, as you say, doing that. I mean, that's one of the nice things about creative streaming, as opposed to stuff you see on YouTube. You know, when you see people doing electronic art, for example, on YouTube, it's generally time lapsed in some in a lot of cases, and people get, even though you know it's time lapse, you don't actually get any concept of, you know, what a 60:1 time lapse doesn't sound a lot, but that's an hour every minute. So a 30-minute video is 30 hours long, and you just don't, you know, even if you know what the compression is, you just don't get a concept of 30 minutes equals 30 hours. And so a lot of people streaming on you know, and not only on Twitch in creative but on other platforms as well, that are streaming creative arts of some kind. Hopefully it starts to get into a lot of people's minds just how long some of these things take, and why, you know, commissions, when somebody says it takes 30, 60, whatever hours, they start to believe it, rather than going, but I saw somebody do it in 30 minutes on YouTube, you know. Kind of like, well, yeah, okay, well, go get them to do it then. Right. So I'm going to want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18. Hey, there was 9 there as well. That's amazing. That's exactly the same number. I'm going to wait until I get that far before I count those. So that's 9, 18, 27, or 18 closed, 9 open. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I need some more out. 17, 18 for that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to want some more of those blue out. I'm now looking at what's left in this little little compartment here, thinking, am I going to have enough? Okay, so close 18 of I wanted 18, but I've got 3 out already. 1, 2, 3. I've done 3 already that are fitted, so I've got to take those into account. So at least that reduces the number I've got to just close currently. I'm quite pleased with the I don't know if you guys have played with the HTML viewer on Twitch just yet, rather than the was it whatever the player is, whose name has escaped me at the moment, that is generally used on Twitch, but I for the past few days, when I've been monitoring my own stream as I do, just to make sure it's going out okay and whether it's actually working or not, the standard Twitch player has been stopping, just freezing, and I've got to stop and start its playback to get it to pick up again. But I fired up the HTML version of the stream tonight, and whilst it sort of stopped a couple of times at the start of the stream, it restarted itself, and it's still going. I'm just looking at the side of me here, and it's going now, and it's been broadcasting for over an hour and a half, and it's still going, which is kind of amazing. So it's certainly working better than the standard Twitch viewer. Says Kappa, good evening. Generally speaking, my darling wife, Mrs. Zaraganart, gets the first sample of everything. But I do intend to make the design pattern available for anybody to buy if you're interested. I don't know how much it'll be just yet, and I don't discuss that on stream anyway, but keep an eye out, or drop me a PM. But yeah, no, my wife gets the first sample, so she gets lots of jewellery at the moment. But there again, she does earn it. She helps me choose the colours, for example. I know Fear Reaper suggested these, but my colour expert did agree, and she helps me out with design choices and things like that. So definitely worth it. Right, these are nearly. Oh, and I'll prepare 3 blue closed rings as well for the other end of this. that's what I needed a minute ago when we did the blue section, switching to the gold. And at some point I shall have to fix that one's right, that end's wrong. But we'll fix that when we get to it, or later on, before I join the two together. Actually, I could fix it afterwards as well. So this one has gone to gold. Now I'll pick the camera up again in a second. Tip it up so you can see what I'm doing. I think most people that are maybe on the stream, if there's anybody on the stream that is looking at it, not quite understanding what I'm doing, this is chain mail, or rather it's jewellery made using chain mail techniques. It's perhaps the better way of describing it, because I do think, or I do find lots of people, when you say chain mail, immediately think of armour, and this stuff isn't. It's aluminium, anodized aluminium, so wouldn't be very good as armour, although it is relatively strong, especially when it's woven together like this. You know, the strength of the weave is stronger than the individual rings on their own. This weave is called a European 6-in-1. Not quite sure where the title comes from, other than perhaps the intimation. I mean, the European 4-in-1 I know is what was used in European armour. So perhaps, I don't think 6-in-1 ever did, but given that it's a variation on the X-in-1, that's probably where it comes from. That's why it was called European 6-in-1, just because it's based on the 4-in-1 but with a slight variation on it. I guess I should have opened a blue ring as well for later on, but we'll get there. Okay, rings, stop playing games. You're not gonna win. So you might as well go where I want you to go, because you're going to do it in the end. There you are, you see. Told you. That ring doesn't want to let go. Right. Getting... Oh, come on, ring. One, two, three, four. I obviously miscounted something somewhere along the line, because I've got more open rings than I need. or I've got less closed ones than I need. I'm not sure which is the right answer. So I shall have to check that in a moment. So obviously I can count, but I just can't necessarily count correctly. So I'll just put this down on the desk and just do a check count. Okay, just lay it alongside and that'll tell me as well. No, looks like I'm right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. I've just opened too many gold rings that I didn't need. That looks, you know, there's yeah, in painting there's a thing which gets called the happy accident. Comes from an artist called Bob Ross, who used to always say the happy accident. Weaves sometimes get ring weaves sometimes get done by people doing things. New ones get built either by people going out and designing them on purpose, or just an accident happens and you get a brand new weave born. And I don't actually know what this is, but I've literally just picked this up off of the desk, and if I can sort of show you, and I can't really get it in line, but I've kind of got, I don't know, something. I just literally picked it up and I'm looking at it, and it's kind of like an ear of corn or a grass ear, you know, the of grass, the bit at the top where the seeds grow. It sort of just formed into that sort of shape, just all of its own accord. It's just how I picked it up. And I'm kind of thinking, how on earth? Well, I know what it is. It's a 6-in-1 weave, so I can probably recreate that, but it's almost like that would make a nice little pendant on a chain, or a bit of a chain, or maybe an earring, or I don't know whether it would extend in some way, get a bit longer, yeah, to just extend it. It's a bit like a Byzantine, half a Byzantine almost. A bit of a Byzantine start, and then I'd probably have to add an extra ring in the back. Interesting. There you go. Just yeah, nothing, but just the way it has formed itself. It looked an interesting shape. I might have to explore that one a little bit later on. Now then, so I put, this is where I transition to the blue again. So that's gold. Blue comes in from the left, so a gold on that side, and I didn't, did I? I was going to close some blue rings and then never did. So let me just grab that. I'll just finish this thing off here and I'll do another 2. Okay, now let's just close another 2 blue rings for the last of the gold block. Let's see, that goes through there. through there, and I get 2 blue rings on it. And then I'll just check it again before I go any further. Lay it down on the desk. Nope, that looks okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this next one's a bit short. So 2, 4, 6, 8 blue to open. I want 16. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There, and then I will want 3 gold ones just to terminate into that last section of gold. I guess what I should have done, well, I'm going to say, I guess what I kind of should have done was make those 2 even when I created it, if I'd have realised. I didn't. Still, it has an asymmetry to the design. Separate these. It still amazes me how they managed to get themselves all tangled together. Given how fiddly it is to sort of separate them when they've done that, and yet they managed to quite easily to sort of join themselves together when you put them in a box and just shake it. 2, 4, 6, yeah. So close up 16. No, I don't want to close up 16. And that's where the maths is probably going wrong, I suspect, because I've got 3 there, so I only want 15. I don't want 16, I want 15. I do actually sort of want I do actually want however many I said. It's just that there's 3 already on the chain, so I just need to take those 3 off. It looks like I am going to have enough rings left to finish this bracelet, because there's another whole row down the middle that needs to go in to join the two halves of the bracelet together once it's complete. Mind you, I'm guessing at this point Murphy steps into the equation and I end up being 1 or 2 short. Murphy always gets you in the end. Interesting. I wonder where that actual phrase originates from. Oh, Murphy's Law. Right, I'll close up 3 gold rings, which will come at the end of the blue section. So yeah. No. Excuse me a second, guys. No. Out of there. Just needed to dissuade a certain Felix Pussycat from trying to climb all over my paint table. I've got a shelf with all my paints in it for airbrushing, and he has a habit of wanting to just climb over them to get to the back for no other reason than to get to the back and come out again. But in doing so, he knocks them all over the place. Any organisation that was in them has gone out the window, and it's just a lot of tidying up, putting them all back, because they're small bottles, but there's lots of them. So I just needed to persuade him that he didn't really want to go there after all. Which sometimes with pussycats is just stopping them, and then they kind of go, well, I didn't really want to do that anyway, and walk off. Making it look like it was their idea not to do it in the end. Kay loves cream pies. Good evening. Oh dear, I like the emoticon with the glasses. That's nice. Now, he wasn't bad because he didn't do it, but he was close. Go on, Ring. That's it. There you go. You see, you can't win with me. You're gonna go on. Unfortunately, it's just a hobby. Kay loves cream pies. It would be really nice if I could do it as a job, but it's not. And it's not the only craft that I do as well on stream. So you're seeing this one because we're just wanting to finish this bracelet off. But then once this is done, we'll be switching. That's not going to be tonight, but we'll be switching to doing pyrography, which is creating images using heat. Yeah, so I'm just trying to remember the right order to put these rings on. And then probably some carving after that, and then some scraper board, and then some punchcraft. So I do 5 different things, each in turn. It's just at the end of the jewellery's turn. Well, with a bit of luck, the pyrography will be tomorrow. Maybe, or maybe the day after, I think, because I've just seen what the time is now. So let me just straighten that out. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. Drag them down there a little bit. So once we finish this the back one, or this one, I'm not sure whether it's the back one or the front one as you're seeing it. Once we finish that one, we'll then join the two together, and that's kind of what the bracelet will look like. So you've got these diagonal blue bands, or diagonal gold bands, whichever way you want to look at it, because it starts gold and ends blue. So they'll be joined together, so that the diagonal continues, and then probably we'll have to just bring. Oh no, I was going to use a box fastening, I think. So I was going to use a clasp on the end. Yeah, so this one is a bit long. I think on this one, it probably would suit better a clasp, somewhat like that clasp there. So this is sort of a box type clasp. So what you do is you get both ends, they slide together like that to form the the join. So I was going to put one of these types of clasps on the end. So I will need to study, just because I've got to adjust, because as you can see if I slide it up, the clasp is slightly wider, so I'm going to have to sort of probably do a little bit of chain weaving just on the end, just to bring it down to something like the 4, or maybe I'll get a 5. I might get a slightly wider one, we'll see at the time. I'll wait till I've completed this, and then I'll have a better idea, because then actually sort of lay it alongside, and just see where the rings lie as to sort of whether I need a 4 or a 5 hole version of this. But we will it's taking a little bit longer than I was expecting. It's a fairly simple weave to do, but it's like any tight weave like this, or close coupled weave, however you want to describe it. There's a lot of rings in a small area, and so the time quickly mounts up to do it. I mean, we've got 27. There's about 100 rings in that section, in this new section that we've done. We did about another 100 finishing off the other section, so we've done about 200 rings in the last couple of hours. Kay loves cream pies, thank you very much for following. That's kind of you, very much, thank you. Yeah, we've done about 200 rings in the last hour. Now if I was doing something like in the last 2 hours, if I was doing something like a Byzantine, that would have been close to 1.5 bracelets in the same time, and we haven't even finished one here. So, but anyway, I want to say thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to close the stream now. It's time for me to get a drink, pack up, and cool down. It's a little warm here. So thank you all. And if there's anybody watching that isn't following, then of course I do encourage you, like all streamers do, to push that follow button and get Twitch to notify you when I go live again. If you just want the notification and don't want Twitch to do it, you are quite welcome to follow me on Twitter. It's @ZerriganArt. Details will be on the end plate in a moment, but they're also below the stream window as well if you come back later. On the other hand, if you'd just like to catch me tomorrow night, I stream from about 8 PM UK time, 1900 hours GMT, or 2 hours 10 minutes ago. It's when I started, so that time tomorrow. Thank you all. See you again. Bye bye.